Hello and welcome to episode 90 of I'm Fine, a chat around the subjects of health, wealth and well-being between myself, Damo, and the man of many hoodies, Mark.
Is this a new one today, is it? New to you?
Or? New to me. Your poddy? Yeah.
Could be.
I mean, It's another Adidas one.
Yeah.
Your endorsement's
There's a
doing
shock.
well. Yeah. Did you like that? We kind of came in with our music. We actually listened to the music before we started.
Is that to save you a bit of editing later?
A little bit. Yeah. That's actually.
No, but it was quite exciting. It's like, I guess that's when you walk on stage, isn't it?
Yeah. All we just needed is a little red light to come on.
Yeah.
Live.
And some dry ice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for us to go and go, Warrington! Put our hands in the air.
Yeah,
I reckon that'll be our first gig.
I was just watching the TV on the one show. The Ramseys were on there.
Yeah.
I've not listened to Married Shagged Annoyed. My mum has started listening to it.
Oh no!
No, she started.
Yeah.
What?
I don't want her going down that path.
What? Listening to naughty things on? I think she's enjoying it, but I think she actually kind of said they're starting to kind of
annoy me,
like the smell of their own farts.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And the ad, and she's just like it. They're kind of laughing at things that I don't, It's probably laughing at. We laugh at ourselves, don't we? I mean, we are hilarious.
Funny. Yeah.
But you said it just got to a point where they kind of just it's, I don't know, becoming a parody of themselves, maybe.
Exactly. I feel that as well.
Yeah.
We'll never become that.
Anyway, they're doing arena tours.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
sold out.
You're like, we're not even close, are we? To filling this living room. I've just kicked the cat out. Yeah. The cat. Our only audience, live audience.
The cat was here under duress anyway. He was pushed in.
It was, yeah.
But I think the biggest one we've ever had is Dean, isn't it?
Well, the biggest listener. Yeah. He is massive.
Oh, shout out to Dean. I got a good Dean story.
Go on.
So the fact that we're living in a simulation has now taken over my mind.
It's the second time you said this since you come in the house.
No, I am. So,
am I?
Oh no! But
am I? Do I have my own simulation, or am I living in yours?
No. You've heard this. I've explained this before.
We have new listeners, Mark.
Everybody in the world is a hologram.
Right.
There can't be. I was watching traffic today.
So why is that? Just watching traffic. Mark, I'm pointing my pencil at you aggressively.
Ow!
Why? You got glasses? Tink, tink. Why is that any different to? Remember David Icke off of the 80s, right? Well, I think in the 80s,
shell suits.
He used to kind of present sports programs in our country here. For anyone who
Plague Island,
for all you Tunisian listeners, he went through a phase of thinking everyone was a lizard. I think he's still pretty much down that track, isn't he? Of thinking people are lizard. I think he thinks the Queen is a lizard as well. She might well be, but anyway. So why is we all thought he was mad. Oh, what an absolute nut job. Let's push aside. I think we've mentioned him before. Let's push aside most of the things he said since the 80s have probably come true anyway.
Yeah,
we'll just gloss over that for a minute. Apart from the lizard thing, no one's been proved to be a lizard. So what?
But the Queen hasn't been seen for a couple of weeks. That's probably skin shedding.
Do I need to start editing again?
No, it's all right.
Should we leave it in?
Yeah.
So why is that any more sane, any more credible than David Icke's? Before you go into your story about your simulation.
So taking one step back,
people might go, "What is he on about?" That Mark. So, honestly, what a nut job.
I stood by a dual carriageway today, and the traffic was very, very heavy and very, very fast. Not heavy as in deep, just a lot of it. And
the traffic was very philosophical.
It was a Leonard Cohen tour bus, and God, that's a fairly
I've no idea what you're on about.
That's a fairly niche reference, isn't it?
I laughed anyway.
So I'm standing there, and we've had this discussion before. So in the time I was standing, staring at the traffic, maybe 300-400 cars went by, all within inches of each other.
They going really fast? Are you there for fucking ages?
They were going very fast. It was a very fast.
You did say that.
Yeah,
sorry.
It was a dual carriageway. People were putting pedal.
Yeah, it was so 60.
As your thing says,
speed
pedal
limit.
to the metal, as your T-shirt says.
Yeah.
So I was looking and I was thinking, it's a bit like watching ants. None of these cars touched each other, but they were going very, very fast, and they were a couple of meters from each other. Everybody is up each other's arse. And then I was looking at some of the drivers. Some were on their phone, obviously. Some looked as if they were concentrating.
It is standard now, isn't it? And we shouldn't laugh. It's not funny.
No, but it is. It's like, remember, it's like, oh my God, don't ever use your phone. And we're all going...
It's like, look at that weirdo not using his phone.
Yeah, they're not even doing a TikTok. And so I was looking, I was thinking, of those 400 cars, a large percentage, too large percentage were on their phone. Of those 400 people, 1 or 2 are sleeping. Of those people, well, yeah, I sleep in the car sometimes, don't you? You fall asleep.
What? Hold on.
You must fall asleep at the wheel.
There's a couple of things. Well, just one thing that's the thing that bothers me. 400 cars, 400 people, right? I think that's nuts in itself.
Well, you have to have a driver in each car. If there was less people.
You know what I mean? I mean, no more or no less is what I'm saying. So 1 person per car. Come on, Matt. You're on the maths man, right?
Yeah.
That means 1 person per car, right? Yeah. Whereas you could have got, 5 times that amount. There could be
if they'd had passengers.
How many is that? 200? My maths crap.
2,000.
No, 2,000.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's mad in itself, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, rewind back to...
Okay.
So how many people you actually saw people asleep driving?
I'm on about 400 drivers. No. What I'm saying is, of those 400...
If you paying attention.
Well, no. If you take 400 people driving cars, I would guess one of those people is either dozing or their eyes are shut. I sleep on the motorway.
No, Mark.
I do. I fall asleep. People do. Seriously. Not on purpose.
People do. We're talking about you. Do you... How often do you... Well,
I would say this year, I don't know, 7 or 8 times.
Well, why? You got narcolepsy? What's going on?
People fall asleep at the wheel. It's a regular thing.
Not that regular.
Well, I stopped driving a sleeping bag now. Anyway.
Just stop getting in the back.
A hammock.
You haven't got a Tesla. Can I just remind you? You haven't got a self-driving car.
Did I ever show you that advert from back in the 60s?
God,
it was a hammock. It's a hammock that goes across the back of your car to put your kids in. A hammock. It's like literally a slingshot.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, so of those 400 drivers,
right,
guessing 40 were fiddling with their phone, whether it was a call, doing a reel, whatever.
But they do also fiddle with their private parts as well.
3 or 4 were fiddling with their private parts. 3 or 4 were asleep. The point I'm making is that not everybody there, and some people are fucking stupid as well. There were some people there that you could look at and were clearly stupid.
Okay, what percentage of people are
97%.
stupid? 97%. Okay. I concur with that.
If we're living in a country where a man goes into a hospital and feels by tucking his tie in, he is saving the dying.
Was he there as well in the car?
Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah.
No, you're right. No, he rolled his sleeves up as well.
Yeah.
For extra protection.
What I would do, if I was Prime Minister going into a hospital, I would wear a short-sleeved shirt and no tie. So what I'm saying is, of those 400 people, of that 10, 15 minutes I was there, it seemed to me a bit of a miracle that not one car even had a tiny little knock with any others. They're travelling at 60 miles an hour, literally 2 metres apart.
Especially when they're asleep, yeah. Incredible.
And you think, that's amazing. And you times that up and people are going to go, well, there are accidents. Yeah, there are.
You're right. There's amazing. There's not more.
Yeah.
And everyone's driving around in practically a bomb.
Yes.
Aren't they?
Yeah. And or even like, I get things like, spasms in my legs sometimes. If I have like a spasm, a lot of my clients get cramp and can barely
I'm just writing some notes. Never
ever
go in a car with Mark.
I think going on a bike with me might be worse. Take
Mark's licence off of him.
Off of. I love that.
Yeah, that's correct.
It's tautology. So, the point I'm making is it's an amazing feat that with all those people, with all their idiosyncrasies, driving a half-ton of metal at 60 miles an hour, nothing went wrong.
Yeah.
So one of my views is that if you view the world through the lens that we're led to believe, that's fine. That's how you see it. When I sometimes look at the world and go, this to me seems too amazing for words. So I then question why there aren't more accidents, why all these cars driving past me, no one clipped anybody else, everybody knew what lane they were going in, everything flowed.
It's very different. This is probably like a relativity thing, but yours stood still, so everything looked more exaggerated. Because practically when you're in a car...
But if I'd been running at 60, it looked like it's standing still.
Yes.
I'll do that next time.
That's kind of...
I'll do my sprint training on the...
I thought you were going to... I was getting a little bit wound up then, but you're absolutely right.
Okay.
Because the point is, if you're in the car at 60 and everyone is doing the same speed as you...
You don't get that.
You're practically stood still.
Mm-hmm.
And you could argue in your simulation that the world is moving and not the cars. Oh. Now, is the world spinning because the cars are all going at the same speed? Ever thought about that?
I've got a question for you. There's a crater on the moon called, is it Tychos?
You believe in the moon? Just to clarify, you believe in the moon? Just... Right, well, I'm just...
Okay, what I'm questioning about the moon...
I don't think I've ever asked you whether you've actually qualified your belief in the moon.
The thing I'm questioning about, that there's a crater on the moon, I think it's called Tychos, and it has a radius of 53 miles. Right. And you can see it from Earth.
Someone would have got up there and measured it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you can see it from Earth. And the moon is 238.
I'm going to have a look.
200. Yeah, well, I'll show you where it is. It's down near the bottom.
No.
Bottom right.
Bottom right?
Yeah, there'll be a sign next to it, big neon sign.
Yeah, that big flashing arrow.
Yeah.
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 I've never noticed that
That's
before.
where the turnstiles are.
Right. That's awesome.
So, the moon is 238,000 miles away, and you can see this crater. I don't understand that. I don't understand the science of that. And Adam...
Yeah. Well, you wear glasses. That's why you can see it. I was pretending that I really couldn't see that. Just for the record. But you could because you got glasses.
Okay.
You got superior
vision. I think
vision.
this is lost on a non-visual podcast. I think what I'm saying is that I question some things. To me, if you break them down and look at them through a different set of lenses,
life is incredible, Mark.
Yes.
The world around us is incredible.
Yes.
We all take it for granted. Sometimes we're so busy in our own little bubbles of our cars, wondering what work's going to bring, what home life is like, the state of our government, the state of our premier and his dress code in hospitals. These are all things that play on our mind. And what we're not realising is the beauty and the wonder around us.
Yes, that is true. Yeah,
that stopped you in your tracks, didn't it? So what was your point again? Oh, everything is so wonderful. It has to be a simulation.
No, not that it's wonderful. What I'm saying is we are brought up to look at the world, and we are told things as children, quite often things that are lies. And then we get to a certain stage of our life that there isn't an Easter bunny and there isn't Father... Oh, God, sorry.
What?
I can see by your face.
What?
There is an Easter bunny.
Yeah.
But he doesn't bring all the eggs.
Your
mum and dad bring some.
Do that? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
He can't carry them all.
Not with those tiny little paws.
He hasn't got opposable thumbs.
No. Anyway, all I'm saying is just like, I look at the world at certain times, maybe like today's been a fairly surreal day.
Did you ever cross the road? We weren't too busy, I can't. Isn't it? I'm going to cross this.
I thought it's going to happen.
Is there a footbridge or something?
I thought as soon as I put one foot there, it's like going to spoil the equilibrium, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's going to be a mass pile-up.
Oh, yeah. Well, there would have been that. Everyone was minding their own business and driving safely until you stood
or sleeping soundly.
We're a work in progress, and this podcast is no exception. In short, it spoke at our perfectly imperfect lives, and if we can make just one person feel like they're not alone in all this madness, then our work here is done. Don't bother connecting with us on Instagram.
No.
Or any social channel, because you'll be wasting your time. And don't search for imfinecast in your web search facility of choice, because you'll just find stuff about us. And you probably don't have the time in your lives to be bothering with.
Well, they're all being blocked because we get nothing, do we? It's all being blocked.
Yes, because the feds are all over us.
Yeah.
That's the other reason not going on there, because you're going to get, you're going to get caught out.
Yeah.
Someone's going to
You're going to have a marker against your name.
Yes.
Anyone who has anything to do with me wishes that had never happened.
Don't bother subscribing to us, and don't turn on your notifications to ensure you don't miss an episode. Just miss an episode and miss all of our life nuggets, tasty takeaways, and highbrow jinx. Yeah?
Like jinx as a word. So, the story about Dean. This is a cracker. So, I don't know if I've mentioned this.
Just want to kind of say who Dean is, just for the record.
So, Amelia is my daughter, one of three, the eldest. And I know she'll be shouting at it now, and the favourite, but that isn't true, because parents never have favourites. And I really don't...
They do, though, don't they?
Yes.
I was having this conversation
and they
the
can
other day
change daily.
about the cats. I have two cats.
Yeah.
I have a favourite.
All the time?
Huh?
All the time? Does the no...
Pretty consistent, yeah.
Okay.
Always have. I'm quite willing to admit that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not ashamed. Doesn't mean I don't love the other one.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean,
Mm.
I think it's like that with kids, right? You can have your favourite, haven't you?
Yeah.
So you've got a favourite daughter?
No, I don't, but I know some parents that do. Anyways, so...
That's a cheeky.
That
wasn't as easy as I thought.
No. So...
Dean.
So Dean is Amelia's... And I was going to say... Oh, I'll tell you one thing I don't like.
What's the terminology these days?
Exactly. I was going to... The ones I dislike are significant other.
Yeah.
Don't like that.
Yeah.
I guess boyfriend feels a bit...
What about bae? Is that a good... Could you say that? I don't know what that means, but...
I don't know what it is. Anyway, so...
Okay.
So...
She likes him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. And so...
And he likes her just for balance.
Yeah, so that's it. And he was our biggest audience, figuratively.
Yeah.
And...
He smells really good. We've talked about that before. He smells really wonderful. Yeah.
That was actually on the BPD ones we were talking about, his fragrance. Yeah. Oh. So... because everything, and I have mentioned this before, I do have some concerns that TikTok actually have implanted something in my eyes and can see what I'm looking at.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, Amelia went out with Dean in Manchester to a bottomless brunch.
I saw the pictures.
Yes.
They're having a right old time of it, weren't they?
Yes. And
that's my social life now, you know that. It's probably a lot of other people's
Dean
social
and Amelia.
Yeah. I don't even have to go out.
I felt drunk watching it. Evidently, they had 20 minutes of the 2 hours left, and they had a fantastic waitress. Shout out to...
20 minutes of the 2 hours left?
You get 2 hours of bottomless brunch, so you get a meal, and then you drink as much as you want.
Yeah, I bet they did some damage.
With 20 minutes to go, I think he summoned...
They told him to leave.
Summoned the waitress over.
Yeah.
And basically said... In his a thick Bolton accent, I'll tell you what, my love, I wouldn't mind a couple more cocktails.
Yeah.
And she was, Amelia said she was absolutely brilliant all night. And she went, I'll see what I can do. You've only got 20 minutes, so, And he went, I want 10.
Yeah.
And she went, I'll bring you 6, look at me. And he went, no, not negotiating. So she said, I'll meet you in the middle. It sounded like an episode of Bargain Hunt. And he was going, no, it's like, Dean has gone, 10's what I want. Why would I?
Yeah.
So she came with 10 cocktails and they had 20 minutes left to drink.
Yeah.
They'd had a lot of cocktails already.
What did they do for the other 10 minutes?
And, I had to stop myself. And
Mark.
So there was the picture on Insta of mounds of porn star martinis. Obviously that night I get go onto TikTok and about the 4th video in is porn star martinis, how they're a con, and they showed that if you poured one into another, these glasses, you could actually get 2 in one. It looks like a full glass, but it isn't. It's only half a glass.
There's one guy who kind of has a tiny glass, then lots of kind of glasses increasing in size.
Yeah, and they all feel the same.
Yeah, so that's not one of those.
No. So this was basically...
So I know ice takes up a lot of the drink, doesn't it?
Well, it's because the way the glass is, it comes obviously very wide at the top.
So you feel you're getting value for money. Yeah. And you're just getting
you're getting half,
ice,
but it's okay, and a big lump of passion fruit. Yeah, but if you're getting 10, you're still getting 5. So anyway. So TikTok sent me this video going, oh look, blah, 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 porn star martinis, and the picture, which I've got on my phone, is almost identical to Amelia's. It's it looks like it was her thing.
Hence the implant in your eyes.
Hence the implant in my eyes. So I sent the picture through to Amelia, and I went, you weren't in the Slug and Letters, were you? Because this is where this video was filmed. Right. Yes, I was. So TikTok showed me a picture of the pub Amelia had been in and the drinks she was drinking the night after she had been in that pub. Obviously just a coincidence.
Yeah.
So, after they'd had the martinis, they decided to hit Manchester. And...
Where?
That was terrible, wasn't it? And so after the porn star martinis, I think Dean was a bit worse for wear, decided to buy a bottle of champagne. Now, if I was asking
He's a thirsty boy, isn't he?
He's a thirsty boy. Apart from his sweet smell, what would you say was one of his and his manly figure? What would you say was one of his standout features?
Oh, his eyes.
Yeah, and you just edited out "go to bed." What's the other one?
Well, I think with the eye, just on the eyes, I think they use a filter that make his eyes pop. I know how these kids do it.
And what else is shining?
Excuse me?
On his face. There's another very big. You've noticed his teeth.
Yeah, I suppose he
has stunning teeth. Okay. Anyway, so Dean opens the bottle of champagne.
Yeah.
With his mouth.
No. What? Just pulls the cork out.
Tries to.
Is it a twisty top?
Tries to, but as the crown goes.
Oh, did he?
Flying across the slug and lettuce.
You lose a crown, did he?
Lost a crown. Ooh. Yeah. You just
open
it
money?
With your hands.
Is that old money?
Yeah, it's 5 shillings old money. We covered this on the pod actually once. So anyway, so he lost his crown. Anyway, I'm going to speed this up because this is even boring me. So he tried to get into a club and he was not allowed into the club because his shoes, which I think Amelia said, I'm not going to say how much they were. I think they were like Louis Vuitton.
I don't think he's ever worn a pair twice, has he? I don't know him that well. I'm speaking like he's probably going to batter me next time.
It's like David Beckham, isn't it? After every match, he just chucks. So every porn star martini, another pair of shoes goes in the bin. Yeah. So they had tiny spikes on them, like decorative. Tiny spikes, and they wouldn't let him in in case that he used it as an offensive weapon. Amelia goes, I'm there with 4-inch stilettos. I could have skewered 2 people with those. And he had these decorative Louis Vuitton spikes. And it's like, the world's gone mad. And you go, he's really big, he's really strong.
Yeah.
If he's in a fight, he isn't going to go,
he's not gonna...
just a minute, let me get my spikes out.
No. Yeah, his feet would have been the last weapons of choice, wouldn't
they? Yeah.
But that was good. That was
quite
a good story.
But the TikTok one was a little bit worrying that they'd sent me a video of the same drinks. Almost, it looked like the same table in the same pub. Anyway,
that was a good story. Thanks for that.
Okay.
In this episode, we're gonna kind of talking of drink. I mean, not talking of drink as such.
No.
But talking, that'll probably come up in a minute. But we are going to have a little look at addiction, aren't we? You've had a lovely story you popped in there.
I can bring the mood down now.
Well, I wasn't going to put a trigger warning at the beginning of... I've got a bit of an idea what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But
I don't think it's a trigger.
But we probably don't know, and this is kind of about the free will stuff. We're probably not quite sure exactly how the words are going to form and come out of our mouths.
No.
So, as I normally say, tread carefully in the next few minutes and the rest of the pod. I guess it's always the place to start with these kind of things. I think we've referenced it a lot over our podcast, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
And recently you listened back to our BPD episodes. It was quite nice to hear you've done that. I haven't actually listened back to them for a while. You have.
I listened to them all back to back without a break. And I found myself either finishing the sentences or actually being in the same place listening to them as I was
when you did it,
recording them.
Yeah.
Like I was literally, you would say something and I could...
You knew what was coming next.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily that I knew that's coming next, but that, I mean, obviously we talked about...
It wasn't long ago.
Voices in my head, and it was like the voice in my head would go, I don't agree with that, or I want to take him on, but like bite your tongue and let him finish his sentence for once. It was... Yeah. It was things that were... And I think when we just had a little chat just now... As a preamble to the podcast, I think one of the key things was, and I think this will come out in diction, this is why I wanted to say it, is that we've had numerous discussions that have basically said, if I mention my mental health or I mention borderline, it isn't some sort of unique thing that only a few people can have. Yeah. And the gradations of borderline are massive, and some of the people I'm following at the moment. But I think the difficulty for me having it is, and this is what we're going to talk about, I think, or where we'll end up talking about addiction, is the scale. And I'm not disputing that when I say, I've got this, this and this, people will go, yeah, I know, and empathise and go, yeah, I've got that. And I think it's the same with addiction. It's scale of...
We have touched on this, but I don't know whether we've kind of hit it kind of front on. And you're a competitive fellow. And... I think we've all got probably an element of competitiveness in us, probably just so we all get by to a certain degree. I won't go into that. But I've something you've kind of talked about a lot when people talk about either a disorder or a condition that they may have. if you have something along the similar lines of that, you find yourself going, there's always that kind of natural thing to kind of go, there's kind of two parts to this. Either that's not as bad as mine.
Yeah.
Or there's that thing where I don't talk about that because I don't want to sound like I'm bragging. There's an element of kind of bragging rights some of these days, and this is kind of where I'm kind of treading carefully.
I think go in with Wellington boots. I think mental health is becoming competitive.
Yeah.
I think there's a hierarchy of suffering, and people are self-diagnosing or wanting to have a label to explain behaviour without having the full understanding of what that means.
And we're going to be talking about gradations. I guess is the point I want to make here. There's gradations with that. There's people who suffer in silence. There's people who suffer on their soapbox. I can't think of the other end of the scale, but there's everything in between. And I think there's also the side of it where you might not want to talk about it because you don't want to be. We find it difficult to talk about because you don't want to feel like you're bringing attention to yourself, or unnecessary attention to yourself, or in a conversation, as we often find, you don't want to feel like you're always pulling it back to you. When someone's kind of talking about their problems, it's very difficult not to go, oh yeah, I feel like that sometimes. It's a natural empathy.
Yeah, it is.
But that can also sound like you're downplaying what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah,
and
it's a hard balance.
It's like, we all have problems like that, don't we? We'll get sad a little, sometimes, don't we? You just got to kind of...
Yeah, when I'm on a cliff, I often look down and wonder. Not even close.
Yeah. So it's quite a sensitive one. But I just wanted to kind of talk about that because, we've talked about it before, that it's not always good to talk about. Some people... I don't think it's necessary to talk about your innermost, darkest, unless you want to. I think there's no right or wrong to any of this stuff. It's all just difficult. We all have to try and find a way through. I just wanted to kind of talk about. I think I like to say hopefully we're aware of those kind of nuances with talking about it and listening to other people talk.
And there isn't a right or wrong. I'm not being judgmental by going, you're jumping on the borderline bandwagon because someone go, well, you are a bit. Do you know what I mean? And it took a long time for it to sort of come out. And I'm not wearing it as a badge of honour. I'm not wearing my addiction. It isn't going to be, here's a great story covering a quarter of a century of me being a dick. And then almost hoping that there'll be some sort of homing instinct of sympathy and understanding, God, you've had it hard. It isn't. All I want to do, I think, is having this discussion. And it's taken us 90 to actually, because you actually mentioned some time ago, almost like where are our credentials? If we're talking about addiction, do we need to prove ourselves? Do they know what they're talking about, or did they have a few spliffs when they were students and now they're drug experts, sort of thing? So I think I've seen it from other sides as well. Obviously, I've worked with some massive drug people with massive drug problems, and then my own personal things. But I think this isn't some sort of badge of honor. It isn't some sort of I don't know, cry for acceptance or whatever. It's just if there's other people suffering, that's what our job's about in this podcast, isn't it? Yeah, helping.
I think we kind of talked about where to start, and you kind of said off pod that there's no point going into the kind of science of it, and I don't think there is, because it will be here for the next millennium, won't we? But looked at a good starting point is just, looked it up. That's what you do. You put it into Google and you go, what does it come back as? The NHS threw up addiction is defined as not having control over doing, taking, or using something to the point where it could be harmful to you. And you've talked about dire consequences a lot. And back to the gradations, someone could enjoy a couple of bags of crisps, and some people can, that can also be overeating or punishing yourself with food, drink,
or lead to a binge
drugs,
or whatever.
One of the top ones was it said addiction is most commonly associated with gambling, drugs, alcohol, and smoking, which are I guess it sounds obvious, but ones that probably do more harm directly. But it's possible to be addicted to just about anything. And the top one is the example was work. We've kind of touched on this, and Some people are obsessed with their work to the extent that they become physically exhausted. If your relationship, family or social life are affected and you never take holidays, you may be addicted to work. We're not going to go into every kind of possible option, but just in that you could go, well, I could look at it for myself and go, am I obsessed with work? Probably, compared to the average Joe. I think about it a lot, and it's kind of, it feels like my identity. Yes, I can become physically exhausted. Yeah. But I'm comfortable with that. Yeah. Because I've got ways to deal with that and ways to kind of recoup and stuff like that. Yeah. If your relationship, family and social life are affected, undoubtedly so, then you're into what level? Then you're into a whole kind of wealth of your relationship dynamic.
Or how would they be affected if I couldn't work? Yeah, maybe equally. Yeah,
because you go, well, if I bin this all off, what's the alternative? We go and live in a cardboard box. Yeah. You never take holidays. I tend not to. I struggle with holidays. Doesn't mean I don't enjoy a holiday. That's the other thing. When you don't, or you struggle with them, as in find it quite difficult to know what to do with myself, unless I go and find things I like doing. You may be addicted to work. So in this, there's expectations from others. There's perceptions. There's a kind of a social construct that we're brought up from a young age, aren't we? You kind of mentioned, kind of growing up earlier, and it's kind of programmed into us, and by I guess by our parents and all the people around us as we grow up, and just like they had to them. It's almost kind of there's genetics that are passed down, but there's also learned behaviour as well, isn't there? And the way we all operate as a civilization. Yeah. You generally have to work and create wealth and all that kind of stuff. And I guess with that there comes anyone who goes outside of that is seen as abnormal, or I think.
Well, I think the obsessive is the word that often comes, even if you're doing something that is seen as, in societal terms, as good or positive. Yeah.
It's also like when it's obsession kind of turn to passion, and why can't they both be the same thing? It's like sprinters, they're celebrated for running fast and winning medals, yet they're obsessed about their health and their speed and everything they do and their actions and recovery.
Or giving up their social life can be seen as too obsessive. But you wouldn't win gold medals if you went on the lash.
They don't have guys don't have a family until they kind of finish their career, and but no one it's seen in a different light, isn't it? People who haven't been put on a podium and winning medals, they're kind of seen as like
a client once said to me, we were talking, this was a client with weight loss, and this person did struggle with weight loss, and we did a lot of different things and came up with some really, this was one of the this is just a slight diversion, but it was one of the we wanted to try and get this person more active, and we were trying to increase their steps, and it's the sort of person that drove to work, but driving probably by the time they'd parked, the walk to work was probably the same, but it was that notion of I would never walk from home to work, I'll get the car. And one of the things we looked, and this is why I'm mentioning this was around habits, that this person would drive back and have their lunch at home.
Right.
And I'm thinking, where in the day can I, because it was a seated job, where in the day can I bring in steps? How can I make it a habit rather than a punishment? It's like the old thing at school, isn't it? Do 10 press-ups as a punishment. So detrimental. Get yourself stronger and fitter.
You naughty boy.
It should be really sit down and eat shit for 10 minutes. Anyways, so this person, we looked at trying to do habit stacking, which we mentioned before. And I think this might come in on the addiction in terms of positive habits. So what happened with this person? I went, right, what happens? You park your car in the drive. What happens? I walk into the kitchen. What happens? I put the kettle on. What do you do? I sit and wait. Stand and wait for the kettle to boil, and then make myself a soup. So there was 3 minutes that was basically watching a kettle boil. And I went, could you be doing something? She said, well, it's only 3 minutes. And I went, but you could walk for 90 seconds round the garden and then 90 seconds back, and suddenly you've done 300 steps. And it was that interesting part of creating a habit. But why I mentioned this person is that they said to me when we were talking about weight loss, because they got very cross with me one day, went, it's so easy for you because you're obsessive. And in some ways they were right, because if I'm going, I'm not going to, I'm going to lose weight, or I'm going to do this, I do have a personality that becomes right. I will not eat anything for 3 days, or whatever I'm going to do.
It's weird, isn't it? It's such a kind of loaded. We talked about should and certain loaded words. That obviously you're obsessive. That it's a statement, it's not just a single word, but obsessive is kind of, it's seen as detrimental, isn't it?
I think it's tinged with judgment, isn't it?
And
obsessive, rein it in a little bit.
But you could argue that she's obsessive about waiting for the kettle.
Yeah.
You can flip it. I know it's language, but you can flip it, can't you? Again, like these definitions. The other one was internet. About people spend hours each day, night surfing the internet and gaming whilst neglecting other aspects of their life. That's probably another theme, isn't it? Neglect. What are you kind of not doing
for yourself and others?
Solvents is one of the obvious ones. I say obvious ones, but I think it is. It's the one that it's the flagship ones, isn't it? I think solvent abuse certainly gets more kind of column inches than shopping or eating, I would have said. You know what I mean? I think it's got the criminality kind of bit,
I mean, drugs
well,
in general,
very taboo.
Is specific.
The shopping one was shopping becomes an addiction when you buy things you don't need or want to achieve a buzz. I mean, let's not get into how society encourages us to buy stuff that we don't need. Okay, so talking about the habits and just bringing in the personality disorder bit, which you were talking about, BPD, and something that's really stuck with me is when you said people are diagnosed with a personality disorder. But everybody's got a personality, and they're very rarely ordered.
Yes,
which I really liked. It feels far away from you, doesn't it? If you know someone who's been diagnosed with a disorder, it feels like they're the only one. Unless someone's telling you have a disorder, you don't think you do. But we have to. Back to the gradations, we all have. There's no one on this planet who doesn't have a disorder. Because no one has their life in order, and also what is order if you really want to get into that. But I think we talk about every day and then the habits we develop every day, and I think that's probably where it's kind of a fine line, isn't there? Then then turns into an addiction, and we've already kind of touched on there's healthy addictions. They can be. And they can be healthy habits, and it's a very fine line to balance, isn't it? And to tread. So going back to, I don't want to go back through your kind of life story, but when did the word addiction kind of become a word? Because a lot of the stuff we all talk about is stuff we wouldn't ordinarily think is a disorder or an issue or anything really, until we kind of put a label on it. We might just think, I do that all the time. Is that, oh God, I didn't realise that was a thing. Or I've been like that for most of my life. And no wonder I felt a rub, but I didn't quite understand how it was seen by other people. Like, my attitudes to work and my, what I call, I would call a passion. So, straight, it could be upset, but it's something I really enjoy doing. It's back to that. If I like football so much, I'm obsessed, but that's okay because it's football.
It's not doing me any harm.
If you don't like football, you're a weird. It's So I guess when did that word appear for you?
Not for a very long time, because one of the things I asked you when I came in to write down the word pencil with your pencil, and today's the final day before my dad's house is sold. So tomorrow morning, somebody will be coming into my dad's house, and so one of the things I had to do with this pod. And this is going to sound dramatic. I was thinking, because you don't edit, if I cry today, you might go, I'll keep that in. Yeah.
Of course I will.
They'll love this in Tunisia. We'll be back up the charts.
These TV programmes, they're just literally built to make people cry.
Yeah.
And they just, you don't even pull away from people. They'll just stay on them until they get
with onions under them, just in case.
Yeah. So, yeah.
So what I, today, for a whole number of reasons today, which I'm not going to go into, I recognised that if I was going to start talking about my addiction, I had to enter a different place in my head. Mm-hmm. So I have just filled my head with trivia and stupid stories and light-hearted banter, which is part of something I can do with my personality because I can't allow the other stuff to come out today.
Yeah, okay.
Now, the reason I'm saying that is that has a bearing on my discussion about addiction, because what happened today, my sister came up to help with the last few things in my dad's house, and it's really funny. I thought I cleared the house, and then she suddenly goes, "What are all those there?" And I'm going, "Shit, those are all his keys." And they were just on a key rack. Going back to habits, you see the keys on the key rack and you don't, and then I think, shit, someone's going to need those, or they need labelling, or do they work, or, and of course there's hundreds of them. And there was a little mug that had a couple of paintbrushes in and a pencil. My sister wanted to write something down, so I passed her the pencil and she went, "Oh my God, this has just taken me back to like me being 6. This pencil was 50 years old at least, and it was a marketing one from my dad's firm."
Right.
And I went very quiet, and because I've been really emotional the last 24, 48 hours, she was going, "You're right, you're right." And I was going, "Look at that pencil." And it was a triangular pencil. You don't get many triangular pencils. Right. And she went, "It's got BOCM cattle food," which was who my dad worked for. And she went, "It was just the pencil, but we always had these pencils. Whenever we went to school, we had the BOCM." And I went, "Look at it very closely." And she's going, "I don't know what, like, just fucking tell me, like, for once in your life, don't make this into..."
I feel for her.
Just be simple. So I said, "Look at the end." And she looked at the end and she went, "Seriously, I can't see anything." I said, "Just look. And on one side of the triangle, there was the number 1 in black. And when you turned the triangular pencil, this is just at the top bit, the bit you chew, there was a number 2 in red. And on the third side, there was the letter X in black.
Right.
Does that mean anything to you?
No.
Right. And my sister went, "Seriously, Mark, I haven't got time
for your games.
I've already been with you an hour. I feel physically drained." You've told me a load of stuff, which I've now got to go away and live with. Don't start giving me pencil anxiety. So 1 is for a home win in football, 2 is away win, and X is a draw. I used that pencil to predict football matches when I filled in the pools for my granddad when I was 6 years old.
So that is actually on, you didn't write, that wasn't written on the pencil.
They were there as a gambling pencil.
Right.
So the normalisation was, here's a pencil that basically is a tool to gambling. Now, it might not be the most sophisticated, but you basically roll it. So that pencil to me had a completely different feeling when I looked at that pencil on my sister. When I cleared out one of the drawers, there was poker dice. I used to play poker dice by myself for hours with my imaginary... Well, not by myself. I had my imaginary friends. I'm not mad. But so we play poker dice. So I know, 3 and 1 and 2 is a full house, and I know a royal flush. And most people don't know what poker dice are. And they're...
I can work it out.
Yes. I think they were well named. So I found poker dice. I found the gambling pencil. Found loads of packs of cards, and we used to play a game called Newmarket, and you had to gamble in Newmarket, and basically if something wasn't won, the money could stick out. I found a cribbage board that still had pennies in the box with it. So every time I played cribbage with dominoes. So if we had dominoes, we used it for money. And suddenly all these aspects are coming into my life of the normalisation of gambling. It was never questioned. What are you going to pick? I can remember once being on holiday and I had a tabloid paper in front of me and they said, "Now we're going to go through the racing results." And they go, "Newmarket, 2:00. And I go, "Number 7. They go, "Number 7. And my parents are literally applauding me. Seriously. So that normalisation is why it never became seen by me as an addiction. So at school I gambled. I was a bookies runner at 12, 13. I would go to betting shops in my mid-teens because the school I went to had a lot of people from the Middle East who are like very rich because of the oil boom. So they would go, "Can you put 10 quid on the derby for me for this horse?" And what I would do is get on my little moped, go to the bookies and go, "I don't think that horse is going to win. I'll pocket the tenner and take the risk." So I became the bookie.
Wow.
Which is risky business.
So you pocket that.
Mm-hmm.
Go on, because this is where I'm not a
So there's a horse running in the derby, it's 10-1. If you put £10 on, you win 10 times your stake, £100 plus your stake back.
Yeah.
So one of my friends from Saudi or from Oman or wherever it was goes, here's £10, I want to go on this horse. Now I'd look at the form and go, I'm pretty confident that horse isn't going to win.
Right.
If it does, I've got to find 110 quid.
Right.
Pretty quick, within the next 24 hours.
Yeah.
And as a 15, 16-year-old schoolboy, that might be tricky.
Yeah.
But I became the bookie and go, no, I'm going to pocket the tenner. So basically, I'm taking the risk. Then I got a job in a bookmaker's at 16, totally illegal, like literally. And this was with a national chain. This was with William Hill, one of the biggest bookies in...
God.
Oh,
Lawyers will be all over
I'll change
us.
it. They were called Bill Hill.
Bill Mound.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, so you work for Bill Mound.
Invoice Mound. And...
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was working there down in Avonmouth at 16. So all this was normalised. You know, my mum and dad would go, have a nice day at the bookies.
But this was way before, stop before the fun starts. Before
Yeah, this was just fucking spend it. Yeah.
Stop when the fun stops.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That could be for anything though, couldn't it really?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So by the time I'm 16, I'm entrenched in a gambling environment. I don't think it was out of control. I was gambling a fair bit, but I
guess there was nothing around, I don't know, where were people with drugs and kind of, other I don't know, self-harm or, was in terms of the time you were living in, the 1900s.
Okay, what was sort of, the major problem was gambling and sewage in the streets.
People checking out the windows.
And leprosy, yeah.
But polio gone at this point. I mean, was it still? I can't remember.
Napoleon.
Sorry.
So
I did say when we were talking about this that we're not going to be free of lols.
No.
Are we?
So
Even though it's
are you asking, was there sort of
I guess
a gamut of other problems
is it just,
in effect?
You did that. It was like people were still smoking and think it was good for them. 70s, right?
Yeah, we're talking 76 now.
Yeah.
So
what I'm saying was that the kind of that awareness. I'm sure some people would probably would frown upon gambling. If you came from a certain background, a religious background or quite a conservative background, there was probably it wasn't underground. It wasn't. You know what I'm saying? But there also wasn't that support around the habit and the addiction, the addictive nature of that. Like cigarette, there's still big cigarette advertising.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that no one thought they weren't harmful.
The
you know what I'm saying?
Well,
But now we are drenched in. The irony now is we're drenched in the kind of this is how you handle this kind of behaviour.
Yeah, and there's 100 times more people with the problem.
Yeah, and it's rammed down your throats even more than it ever was. So
to give you an indication, in 1976, you were not legally. You were not allowed to see the inside of a betting shop from the street.
That's right, yeah.
So if we were in the betting shop and it was like a hot summer's day and we had no aircon, you had to put those coloured plastic strips.
Yeah.
So that was the only ventilation you could have.
Right, yeah.
So the stigma, I guess, was that gambling was very much underground. It was very dodgy. So here's me, a public schoolboy, working in the bookies. Also, this is pre-calculator. This is how old I am. Calculators were not a thing.
Abacus? Pre-abacus.
So what I had to do was to learn every single bet and to convert every single price into a decimal, which I tried the other day. Well, not the other day. I tried it today. Like, I looked at some, like, typical horse racing odds and I can convert them into decimals in my head. I then had to do the maths of... So if a person had 4 horses in a bet and they all won at all these prices, you convert all the prices into decimals and then you times, the decimals by each other. And you're basically doing this on paper and pencil. So, but it was very much, it was smoky atmosphere. It was totally male. It was very, don't tell the missus sort of thing. It wasn't,
okay. Well, there was it was frowned upon.
So it was underground. So I'd come from a relatively middle class, relatively conservative thing, but the normalisation of gambling had led me to almost engage with that because I was good at maths. It was almost that was the primary concern. I was earning some money. I was good at maths.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing for me is that you see so many things now. I sent something through to you from the side of the bus about how many teenagers have gambling problems. That number was way in excess of the whole population with gambling problems in 1976. This is just 12 to 16-year-olds now.
Wow.
Is more than the whole of the country in the 70s.
Good God.
Because gambling problem was like, it was a thing, but it wasn't a thing.
Yeah, but it wasn't thrown down kids' throats, was it? Or
no.
That it, because they weren't allowed in apart from the naughty ones like you. But that at least kept.
But we've also had, and we have now, a culture of things like, and this is, and I know I'm going to be like a reformed smoker, we call them amusements. So you have a machine, and the machine in the corner of fruit machines, it has a tiny little figure, and that's the percentage it pays out, which is like, say, 84%. So basically what it's saying is, if you put £100 into me, I will give you £84 back. Now, if that is what the message is, that's why they are called amusement arcades, because you're just there amusing yourself with some coloured lights. They're basically saying you will lose all your money.
Yeah,
it's written into, that's why they exist. But the number of times when you go to a seaside resort and give, I've seen people like, here's a £5, go and have some fun in the amusement, and go and start gambling. And you're a kid of 12 and you've got a phone and you can have a betting account. This idea that you can't, that you have to show, ID and stuff like this on the internet. It's such a naivety. There's 12-year-old kids going around on these scooters, and so say you need a driving license.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a million. So what's happened? It's become normalised. So it's normalised in my family. It was never frowned upon.
Because it's quite it kind of went from a healthy, competitive, fun environment, and almost kind of seamlessly you became an adult, but carried that on and applied real money. Yeah. Unless you were playing for real money when you were younger, you might have done.
Oh yeah, no. Everything was for real money.
Okay,
we didn't play for matchsticks.
It was never tiddlywinks.
No, it was money real always.
Okay. So that makes total sense. That there's no. It's like a seamless transition, isn't it?
Exactly.
So, but what point back did you get to the point where you? I mean, it might be years, right? I don't know. I'm not saying when was the year the addiction word was put to your kind of behaviour. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess even when I was addicted, I mean, it sounds
you could easily go, it was a job, you're doing a job for a bit, but then, again, the gradations of and how much of your day was then spent thinking about it or devoted to that one thing. And it's a bit difficult when some of those things are your job, because it'll be all day, and even all night. It's not like you're packing boxes, of chalk ices during the day and then go and do your gambling at night. It was all the time.
I was in that environment. You couldn't bet in the shop, so in some ways what I was doing is becoming immersed in a culture, and some of the opportunity was got. I mean, you put a bet in, and all the managers had betting problems. I mean, one of the things long time down the line, and we're going now 20 years later, I was in GA, Gamblers Anonymous, and I was sitting around, and you do your whole, my name is Mark and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And this guy opposite me, I always remember, he went, "Oh, I never knew your name." And I went, "Do I know you?"
Right.
And he went, "The manager of the Mecca on Baldwin Street." And I went, "Oh, yeah, I recognise you. Hi, mate." Another betting shop manager.
Right.
And he went, "The number of nights I've had on you." And I've gone, "What do you mean?" And he'd go, "You'd have a big win, and I'd always keep a 20 for myself. You never checked it."
Oh, wow.
And I got really like, "Oh, fucking hell, you've robbed me." And it was like, that probably isn't the major problem with my addiction, that somebody had kept a 20 for themselves. But it was quite an interesting, I think, introduction. You
only kept a tenner for yourself. Yeah.
But then I was in the same situation when I was a bookie, that I would,
skim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
I guess, did you, again, like, there was a seamless transition from your childhood to your adulthood. Was there a transition from, I'll be careful with my words, but a healthy relationship with gambling and a non-healthy? I mean, I'm imagining that transition is long and over a long period of time. But do you kind of look back and see where that was there any kind of points where you're going, hold on, that's things have changed, shit's got a bit real now, and I can't go back from it? Was when you look back on it, was it just a kind of a splurge of just?
No, I think it was a
stuff.
gradual thing, and then obviously I mentioned my student
you've gone
life.
from like, I was doing that too. I was in GA, but
there was bits in between.
It wasn't no, but it wasn't just like one day go, I need to go and get some. It wasn't like the lights went on.
No.
I imagine there was a period of time where you probably thought that, I've been in a couple of scrapes, I'm going to have to sort this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mean...
And how many awkward, dire consequences do you have to get into before you go, fuck, I need to... you put your own hand up, or someone goes, you got to sort yourself out, mate, or you're going to...
But this...
So was it you, or was it someone else that...
Well, this is the key thing. When we were saying beforehand about how we want to, if we help just one person, I think that is a key question, what you've just asked, because what happens is that there's an assimilation of that addiction into your life. So it isn't seen as like, I have my life and then I have this dodgy underworld bit. It doesn't, because it becomes part of your life. So it becomes, you're in the pub before going to football. Should we go and put a few quid on? Yeah. On the match?
It's the fabric of your life.
And I'll go, I'll go and put it in. So I take a fiver off everyone, put those bets on, but I'm putting 200 of my own on a horse while I'm waiting for
and no one's going, we shouldn't
through.
Keep it. He's done it every week. We shouldn't keep asking him.
Yeah.
People just go, it's okay until it's not okay, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so I think what happened was that the normalisation in my early life was that gambling was part of my life. And then what happens, I think, with the addiction is, I think with most addictions, sweeping generalisation, but you're constantly trying to escape the realisation that you have a massive problem. And I was saying to you, on a smaller level, it has happened with clients who we will talk about certain things, whether it was eating or drinking or smoking, putting on weight, whatever. And that you suddenly get to the point where someone's relaying something to you and you're going, this isn't the odd glass of wine, because you're talking about...
Is this where you'd normally, before that, you would rewrite your own history? The kind of, the reality distortion that, go back to Steve Jobs, you read Steve Jobs, but he will rewrite his history, or even his present.
Yes.
For the world around him to fit his narrative.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's the same kind of thing, isn't it? That there is probably a time where people will create a false narrative because they feel instinctively that it's wrong or not the path they should be on. And then there is a time, and this is all the kind of timeline stuff, isn't it?
You also forget
this doesn't happen
stuff.
Overnight. This is stuff that just kind of drips away, the habit stuff we're talking about. And then you get to the point where you can't, you kind of cash a check you can't afford, and it catches up with you, and you go, I can't rewrite my history anymore. I can't.
But the rewriting of history is a perfect one, and this is a key one, and this has happened with a number of people I've worked with, that we will have accountability, or we'll have a contract. I want to get on top of my drinking. I am only going to drink at weekends, and people will tell me that, and I go, define your weekend. And for some people, it does start on a Thursday. Yeah. So Thursday to Sunday.
Payday, couldn't it?
Yeah, that's 4 days. That isn't a weekend. My understanding of weekend is right. So like I then say, tell me the days when you are not going to drink. Where are your gaps? When is the thing you're trying to stop? Yeah. And then you look at what happens on the rest day. And I can remember many years ago, I had a client and we agreed the weekend was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm allowed to drink, but I will not drink on any other day. And week after week, how is it doing? Fine. How is it doing? Fine. And then one day, I was talking to this client and we said, I said, how's it going? And they said, yeah, fine. She said, I kept to what I was going to do. I had half a bottle of wine, put it away, felt really proud of myself. And I said, well done. And I said, when was this? And she said, on the Sunday. And I went, oh, what happened to the wine? And she went, well, I finished it off on Monday. And suddenly the light bulb to me was going that when you're saying about rewriting history, that had been expunged from her mind. I've done what Mark has said. I've just drunk on these days, but I haven't drunk a full bottle. Yeah, I ain't going to pull it away.
Reframe reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
and suddenly the
can,
weekend
you can definitely do that unconsciously.
Yes.
Probably more so than you probably any of us ever think.
Yeah.
Until you kind of have that self-realization, or someone goes, "Oi."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you're lucky enough to have someone who's looking out for you.
Yeah. And it's very hard to look after yourself in those situations and admit to that.
So can you remember that bit where it became...
Mine was basically as a student. So I fell out of traditional behaviour for a student. So for 4 years in Sheffield, I didn't really study at all. And gambling was a big part of my day to day, but I had very little money. So then I got a job in a bookies, earned more money to gamble. And then that wasn't enough. So I got a job in an amusement arcade. And not necessarily my proudest moment, but one of the friends of my dad fitted pacemakers. And in those days, for some reason, I don't even understand this, he had this giant magnet that he gave me once.
I think I know where you came with this.
And because they were mechanical days, I was able...
On the fruit machine.
I was able to pull down the fruit machines to get jackpots. So when there was no one in and I was
working...
working...
on the side and move the mechanism around.
Move the mechanism.
Yeah, wow.
And so then, that's the situation. That's the situation where you get off a coach having been somewhere at 10 o'clock at night and you know where you can find a fish and chip shop with 2 fruit machines.
Yeah.
And that's when it becomes way above habits. It becomes that you're looking for your next hit, and you know, I'm going to have to buy fish and chips. I'll go and buy fish and chips because I'm hungry. No.
You're almost building up a database, aren't you?
Yeah.
Of cheats and hacks.
Yeah.
And, quick wins and, or efficiencies.
Yeah. And also
to
it's
feed your
hidden,
habit.
and it's the people in there see me spending a couple of quid on a fruit machine, but they don't know that when I got the train, if it wasn't a coach, I would stop off at Crewe because there was a cafe there that had a fruit machine. So because I never used to pay for rail tickets. I never paid for rail tickets. I would always jump, find ways to get on the station or jump off if they were looking for tickets and stuff. So the money I saved then, would be on a cafe on a train station. So but even then it was no, I've just gone for some fish and chips and I put a couple of quid in. It's not really a problem, but I've been doing it every shop along the way.
We talked about habit stacking can be hugely positive and beneficial in your life.
Yeah.
Those small incremental things that build up really positive.
Yeah.
You're habit stacking there.
Yes.
To the degree, the opposite degree.
Yes. I'm putting gambling on to getting a meal or having a coffee.
Yeah. You think the power of turning that into positivity is huge because there's a hell of a lot of habit stacking in there, isn't there?
Yeah.
And effort and obsession about. It's quite impressive when you think, not impressive for it to be healthy, but that kind of the database and how you map stuff and.
But it's also
when you look back, that's you think if I could like Megamind, you could have used Megamind saw good in the end, and he kind of turned all his kind of evil genius to kind of puts it to a positive use. Do you ever think what if I kind of spun that round and don't know? Do you ever think about that?
Well, no, it's
if you'd used that kind of obsessive nature and that kind of clever use of numbers and mathematics and.
If I become an investor rather than a gambler, because they're two separate things. Because at the same time I was doing this, I was buying gold from South Africa at the same time that I was feeding a fruit machine in a fish and chip shop. So that I was bordering on an addiction that was a healthy addiction. I was doing loads of research about the price of gold. I bought something called a Cougarand.
That's when you bought silver as well at the same time?
Yeah, I've still got all that. But the Cougarand I used to have in my wash bag, it was like a lump of gold. I would buy an ounce of gold and keep it in my wash bag.
Buried in the garden or something.
Yeah, if I go in the next few years...
Tell me where it is.
Go for the wash bag.
That's how we can get more listeners. We can kind of reveal clues as to where you've left all your gold.
Oh, it's one of those treasure show things, isn't it?
Yeah, and people have to keep tuning in.
I'm aware of time.
Are you?
It's unlikely I do this, but I reckon I don't know whether this becomes 2 parts because
it's I was trying to kind of keep it on the straight and narrow, but it's felt
there's a lot there.
There is. We probably haven't got. We were kind of trying to obviously cover the kind of gradations of things. I think we'll probably cover that to a bit, and we can always, like anything, we can always cover it more. And also. The takeaways about how you can either, I think, kind of spot these kind of traits, kind of character traits and habits that
Are you saying for other people to spot?
Yeah, I think that was kind of I mean,
it
is a big one, but I think we can certainly carry on talking about it in another episode, because I think maybe listening back to this, we might go actually if we pull these out and go, we might be able to expound on it a little bit more.
Can I just pick up what you've just said, because I don't want to lose this, because we've done this a couple of times today, haven't we? Just sort of grabbing something because there's so much there. One of the things that I've become more and more aware of is that, going back to my borderline, is that I think my mental health is probably harder for other people than it is for me.
Yeah.
In terms of not knowing what's going to happen when I walk in the door, about not knowing about my decision-making process, about not knowing the truth about what I'm thinking, not knowing a whole host of things that they have to contend with. And like at the beginning, when I talk about, I'm not doing it for the pod, I have thoughts about that we're all holograms and about simulation, and I won't have that the following day. And I'll also have thoughts about 101 different things which I think are linked to my borderline. But if we use the addiction analogy or subject, I'm more and more aware that the effects of how my mind works, I can almost live with it because I've had 40 odd years of it. None of it's a surprise to me. But for other people, it must be, the whole walking on eggshells thing must be so debilitating in terms of like, fuck, what am I going to see next? What am I going to hear next? What am I going to have to?
Okay.
Because there's no consistency around it. There's this
around what? Sorry, what?
About my condition.
Oh, okay, right.
And it's the same that why I'm alluding to this is my sister came up today, and as I said, we're doing stuff in the house, and she literally went, I'm going to have to go because I'm very, very tired from having spent 3 hours with you. Not in a disrespectful way, but I'm drained. Yeah. Because you've come up with thoughts, you've come up with theories, you've told me things that are happening in your life, and it's like...
And you know where she's coming from. That, don't you?
Yeah.
You're not going, that's weird.
And she doesn't see me that often, so after 3 hours, it's a big old ask. Yeah. And I think what I'm trying to allude to, and this might be where we dig in for the next one, this is why I wanted to post it, was that other people's awareness of your situation is probably a better barometer than your. Yeah. So mine is, I've got a bit of a hectic life coming up over the next few days or next few weeks, but I'll be all right. And if X, Y, and Z happens and I'm suffering a bit, I can live with that. Yeah. And whatever, because I'm used to it. But I think other people, and this is one of the things why I'm saying this, my sister said to me today, she said, do you not realise that decision has a big effect on me? And I'm going, it's nothing to do with you. It's like my life. And she went no, it does. And I think that's the thing with addiction. You can be in this cocoon of, I'm doing this, and someone can look at you and going, I don't think you've eaten today. Yeah. Or you have no money at all.
Unless you live in a cave and don't live hundreds of miles from anyone, it's going to affect people. It has that kind of, ecosystem about it, isn't it? The kind of vortex. You either bring people in or you, expel people out. You can't not affect another soul if they're anywhere near. If we have networks and dynamics, don't we, in social.
But I think people need to be quite proactive in this. If you have concerns, and it isn't just gambling, but it was like one of the key things was I can remember once saying the most dangerous time isn't when I have loads of money in my pockets, it's when I have none. Yeah. And you got loads of money in your pocket, that's suspicious. Yeah. When I have no money in my pocket, that means I'm at rock bottom. Yeah. If I got money in my pocket, it's probably because I haven't gambled that day. That's why I've got money. So that's almost like a better.
It's a good way of putting it. You talk about gradations. That's polar ends of a situation. There's lots of different things in between. You're not saying right in the middle of those two. A little bit of money in your pocket is making everything right.
I think it's when you pick up things when you're around someone, and I think being proactive and almost even if you're going to offend somebody, I think starting off with, I'm just a little bit worried. Or can you put my mind at ease? I think sometimes that's a hard conversation to have.
It is, yeah.
but it's almost like, is
Again,
everything okay?
Yeah, not getting on your soapbox with it.
Yeah.
Not being judgmental.
Yeah.
Although, I think there's an element of you almost have to be to a certain degree.
Yeah.
You have to make a judgment about someone's condition, or at least to bring it up. Again, we talked about before how well that is received by the other person. The other person has to be... that's what kind of I was in... Maybe we can pick it up again, but the kind of the timelines and when the things you don't know about, the moments you do know about it, whether that was yourself finding it out for whatever reason. Because lots of people can go through all this thing and not have an ounce that it's affecting anyone else or even themselves.
Yes. Or not even aware that anyone else
we've kind
realises.
of talked about that kind of blissful ignorance, haven't we? Where it wouldn't be lovely not to give two shits about and just kind of sail through things. You don't hit any edges. You just kind of sail through. You don't know any trauma. It's all just don't bother anyone. No one bothers you.
Yeah.
So I think it's that point where you can, if we can try and even just explore what points or triggers there can be for you to the self-realization bit.
Yeah.
That's not an instant thing. None of this stuff is instant. It could take you years to come realizing something, come to terms with something is completely different things, aren't they? And then it's the people
wanting to do something about it.
And then equally the people around you realizing and coming to accept. People might realize and never be able to accept. And every combination thereof. It's complicated, isn't it? Yeah,
it is. But I saw a statement today that resonated with me, and it said, honest people welcome questions. And I thought that's really interesting. We've got the whole debate around COVID at the moment, and it's like things like don't question the science. And someone said, that's what science is about, constantly questioning. But I thought that bit about honest people welcome questions is right. I know I struggle. Yeah, people can go, did you sleep well last night? And I'll be jumping down their throat. It's like, what's it to do with you? And I think that's the thing. If someone's got nothing to hide, people like being asked questions and asked about their welfare. But if you're lying and covering something up and someone questions you and you close them down, that's I think, an instant sign. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone who's interested in the our BPD specials, which there are 3, can check them out. They are episodes 86.
No, they're not.
No, you're...
69, 70 and
71. Oh God, I do apologise.
That's okay. I can tell I've just been on them.
No, yeah, you're right. I'm on the wrong page. Yes, Mark quite rightly said. He said we good bit of numbers. 69, 70 and 71. Their numbers are doing really good. They're our most popular things. Might be our crowning glory.
Yes.
It's our legacy to the world. When the world is dust and they find a hard drive in a pile of rubble. But what's this? Just 3 episodes left. The only pod left.
The carvings in Tutankhamun.
A couple of cockroaches in our episodes. Yeah. Right. That's it for this episode. Well done for getting this far, and thanks for listening. Remember, don't connect with us on the socials. Nothing to see there.
No, keep it quiet.
Don't search for imfinecast on the internets. And definitely don't email us at imfinecast@gmail.com because I'll be livid.
Yeah, I haven't got time for
that. No, ain't nobody got time for that. So the next episode, as we all discussed, we'll kick this on a little bit more. But in the meantime,
we're addicted to addiction.
Oh, Mark.
Hey, you can have that one.
So we'll see you shortly.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah. See ya.